Hello and welcome to another video. Today we're gonna take a look at a very fun triple shadow team in the Great League Remix Cup with Quagsire, Zapdos and Charizard. This team is mainly for fun, although it actually worked quite well for me, but that's mostly because I ran into a hell of a lot of double fighting backlines. And speaking of double fighting backlines, there's one thing I real quick want to talk about, so let's take a look at it. A lot of people yesterday and today mentioned that they had a tough time running my team from yesterday because they ran into a lot of double fighting backlines. So I just wanted to showcase some ideas that I have had for how to overcome those teams that you might be seeing a lot. Mostly that Alolan Sandslash double fighting team Rise showcased, and also a lot of teams with Golbat leads. Those are the ones that I've been seeing. You can overcome with using some of these leads like Dunsparce. Quick Attack Diggersby is actually a very good counter to these two. And then Excadrill as well might be a bit of a spicy option, but could actually also work. And then using two things that are good against fighting in the back. Obviously, overcoming double fighting by using two things that are good against fighting. But specifically using one thing that you can counter swap onto a double save swap, because you've probably been seeing a lot of double save swaps. So using either like a Machamp or a Toxicroak or something that can safely be counter swapped onto double and not be afraid of any of its charge moves. Or you might have to shield the first move from double because some of them are running wild charge if you're using one of these two. But Pokemon that can overcome double in most shield scenarios and like make sure you can keep switch advantage. And then you can pair it with like a Cresselia or a Jellicent or like a Golbat or something that can overcome the second fighter, or something that can be counter swapped onto like a Surfetched or a Vigoroth or something like that. I really like the Quick Attack Diggersby Cresselia core. I think that is still very good, and you can use it just the other way around from what I used yesterday, and then have Quick Attack Diggersby in the lead and then Cresselia as a save swap, and maybe something else that can be counter swapped onto double as the third Pokemon. I think that might be working very well. Of course, then when you start using that, you're gonna start running into all sorts of other weird things. I've been seeing a lot of Double Dragon as well, so if you're seeing a lot of Double Fighting and Double Dragon, it may just... I for a very brief second thought about Double Charm, but then I just thought I need to stop playing instead. You can't do that. I think that would actually work really well, and you're gonna teach a lot of people a lesson. Just don't do it against me, because if you run Double Charm against me, I will find you. I will probably realize you're bigger than me and run away, but still, please don't do it. Thanks. This team does also work pretty well against the double fighting teams, although you don't really have a reliable response to double, and also Zapdos isn't a good response to the fighting type's down energy, so you do need to be aware of that. But it was a lot of fun to use, and as I said, it went pretty well, so let's take a look at the battles. Going into the first game, lead Quagsire into Buzzle. Not the best lead in the world, we have two better responses in the back, so we bring in Zapdos as a save swap, and they respond with a Powder Snow Alolan Sandslash. Not ideal. Go up to the Thunderbolt and then bait with a Drill Peck, because Shadow Alolan Sandslash would not like to take a Thunderbolt, so I'm very much expecting the shield. We can't quite make it to another Thunderbolt, so we have to settle for the Drill Peck. But does the opponent know their Zapdos counts? They do not. They give us both shields. And this is also a way you can use Shadow Zapdos, because it grabs shields from pretty much everything, and grabbing shields is a very good strategy when you have Shadow Charizard on the back. I go for the CMP here because the Alolan Sandslash has so much energy. Also, if this is a drill run, it will take out my Quagsire, so do bring up the shield just to make sure I can take this out, because then we could get rid of a lot of energy off of it. Then bring in Charizard, we still have a shield advantage. They bring in a Dewgong, we can make it to a Blast Burn before we get debuffed by an Icy Wind. This is neutral, Dewgong is tanky, but Blast Burn does massive damage. And then they get off an Icy Wind. It takes 5 for the first, 4 for the second one. So we might be able to farm the Dewgong all the way down before they get to another move, which is exactly the case. We come out with a Blast Burn for the Buzzle. Buzzle is a bug type, it does not like fire, and we one-shot it with a Blast Burn, and that is a very good game. Next game, lead into a Shadow Dragonite. Nightmare lead, of course. Bring in the Zapdos, hoping that it can live enough Dragon Breath to get to 2 Drill Pecks, because it's really not a good matchup for Quagsire, of course. They just stay in, and they just Dragon Breath us all the way down right before we get to another Drill Peck. And this is an absolute nightmare of a situation, because they have a lot of energy on this Dragonite, and we really don't want to take it. Bring in Charizard, because I'm thinking we might be able to farm them all the way down before they make it to 3 moves, although they have a lot of energy on Dragonite. Go for the first Dragon Claw. I don't want to CMP them or potentially CMP them at the next one, because Dragonite does win CMP against Shadow Charizard. So we just take the next one, or we shield it, and then we try to farm them down right before they get to another move. They bring in Toxicroak. I don't really want to take these counters. I maybe could have overfarmed a little bit, but we just go straight for the Blast Burn to one-shot the Toxicroak with a hat. And then they bring in a Shadow Quagsire. We go for another Blast Burn. I maybe should have gone for the bait here, because Quagsire is their last Pokemon. They do shield it. We bring in Quagsire of our own. And now we're going to see, can we take 2 Mud Bombs from this Shadow on Shadow? Mud Bomb is not the strongest move in the world. We cannot. The Mud Bomb, the next one will KO our Quagsire. Maybe I should have tried to go for the CMP, because my Shadow Quagsire does tend to win the CMP in the mirror. But I kind of had to go for the move immediately, right before they got to another one. And now my opponent just overfarms perfectly. And because they overfarm perfectly before going for this Mud Bomb to take out Quagsire, they will be able to outpace my Charizard as well. And even though Mud Bomb is resisted, Charizard from this range is not going to take it. So we unfortunately lose that game. Next game lead into Surfetched. Not the best lead for Shadow Quagsire. Actually, Quagsire wins the 2-shield scenario, but we bring in Zapdos. They bring in Dewgong. Once again, Dewgong just has to shield. Like, it cannot take a Thunderbolt. So of course, I'm going to go for the bait. And we do grab the shield. And now, can they farm us down before we get to the Thunderbolt? They cannot. They try to go for the farm down, but we make it to a Thunderbolt, so they have to expend 2 shields. And this is just making me smile. They come out with a lot of energy, but we have kind of a sponge in Shadow Quagsire, although not really, but it can take these icy winds. So they go for the first one, and then they make it to another one as well. I really want to take out this Dewgong before bringing in my Charizard, so I don't have to take an icy wind debuff on Charizard. So I try to go for the Stone Edge, hoping that even though it is 2-stage debuff, it can take out this Dewgong, otherwise it will farm us down. So I have to bring in Charizard and take this Icy Wind debuff. Unfortunately, of course, we have to shield. Shadow Charizard does not like charge moves, and we are always going to try to preserve our precious Charizard. They bring in a Golbat, so we go for the Blast Burn on CMP. This was a bit of a mistake, because this is not going to be enough to take out the Golbat when it is debuffed from the Icy Wind, so I should have overfarmed instead. Now they will still be able to get off this Poison Fang. We have to shield it, even though we don't want to shield the first one. And now, can we farm them all the way down before they get to another one? We just about get the farm down on the Golbat. Come out with a lot of energy on Charizard. A little bit lucky, of course. The Dewgong is dry, so we don't want to throw any moves on that. They bring in the Surfetched, and we make it to a Blast Burn. This is debuff from the Icy Wind, but it still just takes out the Surfetched. And now we can farm down the Dewgong as well. And this is turning into a bit of a Charizard show, I'm promising you. Shadow Zapdos is putting in a lot of work as well. Next game, lead into a Shadow Golurk of all things. I'm thinking this thing has to shield pretty much everything. So go up to the Mud Bomb before swapping out to grab the shield. And then we bring in Shadow Zapdos. They go for a move. It takes 5 for the first Shadow Punch and then 4 for the second for Golurk. So they should be 1 away from the next one. So we can make it to a Drill Peck if they stay in. They don't. They swap into a Ferrothorn. And this opponent is just completely core broken by Shadow Zapdos, because Ferrothorn is not a response to Zapdos. I was thinking that if I get off this Drill Peck, I could put the Ferrothorn into farm range for my Charizard and then just let my Zapdos go afterwards. But now I'm looking at it, and this is a pretty nice farm down for Zapdos with Thunder Shocks. So I shield up the Power Whip and then farm them all the way down, come out with a lot of energy on Zapdos. Also, they showed that they don't really have a response to Zapdos by bringing in Ferrothorn of all things. And then they bring in Empoleon. Good thing I didn't save the shield for Shadow Charizard. This would not have been good. Go for the third Thunderbolt, knowing that I can get to another one. We do make it to another Thunderbolt, but my opponent makes a very nice catch onto Golurk. I pretty much had to throw it immediately. They still have energy on this Golurk, and they also have energy on Empoleon. But Golurk, this only has Shadow Punch, which can hit for neutral. Doesn't do that much damage to Charizard. The Empoleon has to expend all of its energy to take out the Charizard. Otherwise, we would have been able to get to a Blast Burn. And now we can just safely get to a Mud Bomb with the Quagsire. It is super effective. Empoleon is very frail, so this should take out the Empoleon. And that is a good game. Next game, lead into Golbat. The first time I led into this, I swapped into Shadow Zapdos. That was a mistake, because most Golbats have double fighting in the back, or like Vigoroth double, something like that. So saving your flyers is a very good idea. I go for the Mud Bomb, and then I let the Shadow Ball go, thinking I know I can lift the Shadow Ball, but if they don't go for it, or if they overfarm instead, I don't want to expend all of the energy. That would put me in a very awkward situation. So we go for the Mud Bomb. Also, they always shield. The Golbat tends to always shield, so I feel like it's pretty safe to just go Mud Bomb. Go for the Drill Peck against the Quagsire, take 7 for the Stone Edge, so we can outpace it to yet another Drill Peck before they get to one Stone Edge. They have to shield it and also get up any energy. I'm thinking if it's the Mud Bomb, we can live it easily. If it's a Stone Edge, they're dry, so we can farm them down with Charizard. So I'm absolutely fine with just letting it go. It is the Mud Bomb, we live it easily. They have to throw yet another Mud Bomb to take out Zapdos once again. I'm just like 2 shields up with Shadow Charizard. Absolutely fine by me. This is also a very nice way of playing Shadow Zapdos, just setting up Shadow Charizard, because of course it also lures out a potential rock type in like Carping or something. The Golbat had 2 wing attacks before swapping, so they should be 3 away from the next one, so we CMP tie them with the Blast Burn to take them out. And then they bring in a double. A Blast Burn only does about 75% to this. I say only. So a wing attack it into a range where 1 Blast Burn is enough to take them out, just to make it look nicer. And then we one-shot the double with Blast Burn and farm down the Shadow Quagsire. Another very nice sweep by Shadow Charizard. I really should be putting Shadow Charizard on the cover of this next game. Lead into yet another Golbat. I saw like 5 or 6 of these today. Like, I've been seeing so many Golbat leads. Go for the Mud Bomb once again. I think this is the correct play, just in case they overfarm or something like that, because it just gets so awkward if you expend all of the energy, then they can overfarm so much, and they always shield it. So, go for the Mud Bomb, we grab the shield, and this time, they don't bring in a Ferrothorn, they bring in a Scrafty onto Zapdos. This is not a response to Zapdos. We go for the Drill Peck before they get to a foul play, thinking it would be enough to take them out, but Scrafty actually lifts the super effective Drill Peck from Shadow Zapdos. Very impressive, and then they can get to a move. We can shield it up, it's only a power-up punch, but they won't be able to get to another move, so we just come out with a lot of energy on Shadow Zapdos. They showcase that they don't really have a response to Shadow Zapdos, and they're showcasing that once again by bringing back in the Golbat. They were 4 away from the Poison Fang when they swapped out, so we go for the CMP time with the Thunderbolt. The Drill Peck does about 62%, so I don't think it would have quite KO'd from this range, which is why I went for the Thunderbolt. I want to save my Zapdos because they're just incredibly weak to it, but I don't want to stay in when I'm debuffed. They bring in a Boss Wall, and this is just a very, very tough time for my opponent. Like, Charizard is probably the hardest answer to a Boss Wall you can possibly imagine. Maybe Golbat is even worse, but yeah, we get to the Dragon Claw to take out Boss Wall, and then we get to the Blast Burn on this Golbat as well. My opponent really not liking these flyers, and that is a good game. And yeah, got to a new elo peak, and then it kind of went downhill from there. As I say, I went 10-10. At this point I'm 7-3, so you can probably guess where it's going. Although I am showcasing some of the better games, because this is a bit more of a fun video, of course. So next game, lead into a Shadow Marowak, very good lead. They swap into a Cresselia and they throw after 7, so I know this is just a Moonblast, takes 8 for the Future Sight. I would recommend, if you're the Cresselia in this situation, to just go up to 7, even if you don't have Future Sight, or go up to 8, just to threaten it, because it makes my life so much more difficult as we go for the Blast Burn, one before they get to the next Moonblast, so we can CMP tie them with this Dragon Claw to take out the Cresselia. And then they bring back in the Alolan Marowak to farm Charizard all the way down, but not before Shadow Charizard gets to yet another Blast Burn. This is resisted by Marowak, but it does big damage to it anyways. Now we can bring in the Quagsire, they bring in a Whimsicott, we bring in Shadow Zapdos, and once again, they throw after 5. This can only be Seed Bomb, takes 6 for the Grass Knot, which would also be a little bit threatening, but more importantly, 7 for the Moonblast. So we can just let the first one go because they threw so early, and then go for a Drill Peck right before they get to another one. Because of the Seed Bomb nerf, it always takes 5 for the Seed Bombs now for Whimsicott. So we can make it to another Drill Peck before they even get to another one, or on the CMP, potential CMP. Now they will farm up, and they just realize there's no way they're gonna win this game, because the Marowak was also so low. So yeah, next game lead into yet another Golbat. As I say, I've been seeing so very many of these. This is a regular Golbat, but it should still be very afraid of the Stone Edge. Also, most Golbats are like part of an ABB team, so they want to preserve their Golbat, I find, which is why I mostly go for the Mud Bomb, thinking that they're always going to shield it. This time I go for the Stone Edge, they still shield it. Now I can bring in the Zapdos. And the regular Golbat can take a Drill Peck from this range. A Shadow Golbat, it would do about, 62%. A regular does about 52%, so I didn't want to throw it immediately there on the CMP, because I would still have to go, or I would still have to take the Poison Fang. They bring in a double, and I make a mistake. I should have gone double Drill Peck. A Drill Peck does about 46%, so adding the Thundershocks up, it would have been enough to take out this double with 2 of them. I didn't have to go for the Thunderbolt. Now we can go up to right before they get to another body slam after shielding the first one, and then go for the drill peck. We have 2 loaded. If they shield it, we will be able to get to another one, but my opponent, wisely realizing that I had 2 loaded, so they didn't want to shield that double, they bring in a Vigoroth, and I'm thinking they were so good at keeping track of my energy, they probably know I have another one, so I don't want to throw it, try to go for another one to try and catch on the Quagsire, but then they just throw it. I could have gone for the CMP with the drill peck, but now we can bring in the Charizard. We can take 1 body slam, it's not comfortable. My opponent waits a turn, so throw in the middle of my wing attack. Very nice play by the opponent. And then they go for a body slam. We can overfarm a little bit more, wait a turn, and then they bring Golbat, so we overfarm a little bit more. We have to go for the Blast Burn in order to take this out. We do have a Dragon Claw stored after this, after we take out the Golbat. Dragon Claw is not enough, we bring in Quagsire, but my opponent realizes that they just have to take this out as quickly as possible to take as little fast move damage as possible, because a Dragon Claw simply isn't enough from that range. So I had to go for the Blast Burn, and that is a loss, unfortunately. Next game, lead into a Mantine, and I think I played this a little bit wrong. I go for the Mud Bomb bait, which is a very risky bait. They do shield it. It makes a lot of sense. The Mantine does like to shield the first move, so going for the Mud Bomb bait made sense, but I just like to know that I'm going to grab a shield advantage or something like that. Go for the Stone Edge the second time around. As you can also see, this match is sped up a little bit more. Go for the Stone Edge and CMP, because now we can leave them energy dry. You're going to understand why this match is sped up a little bit more now, because they bring in a Chansey. This match is very, very long. Go for the Thunderbolt against the Chansey. Thunderbolt from a Shadow Zapdos should do massive damage to anything, but Chansey just does not care at all as we go for another Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt is a little bit more energy efficient in neutral matchups, so that is the one I decided to go for, also because I'm just... Like, Chansey is just not shielding. Like, who's shielding that Chansey? They go for a sidekick. Zapdos can't take any charge moves except for against the Chansey, apparently. Go for a drill peck at this time around, because I think 1 more Thunderbolt is not enough, but I'm thinking 2 drill pecks might be. So we go for yet another drill peck to take out the Chansey, hopefully. They do live on 1 HP, or probably 10, just looked like 1. And then they bring in a Wobbuffet, because this opponent hates fun. They go for a Mirror Coat, it always takes 8 for the Mirror Coat, always takes 10 for the returns, but now we can go for the Blast Burn. They only have 1 shield and they have a very bulky Wobbuffet. I'm not really even considering baiting, and my opponent realizes that, so they just shield it up, and then we can make it to yet another Blast Burn on this Wobbuffet to actually do quite a lot of damage to this very bulky Pokemon. They go for another move. At this point I just want to shield up everything. I think I can make it to 2 more Dragon Claws before they make it to 2 more moves. And then they try to catch on a Mantine. They were 4 away, so we catch the next move on Quagsire instead. Get wrecked, opponent. It is the Bubble Beam, and after a little bit of lag, it should take out Quagsire. Now we can bring back in the Charizard. The Chansey is very, very low. I have enough for a Dragon Claw plus a Blast Burn, so I want to land a Dragon Claw if it's the Chansey, and a Blast Burn if it's the Wobbuffet. So looking into the right hand corner, it was a normal type. Go for the Dragon Claw, and then go for the Blast Burn against the Wobbuffet. And we actually beat this very, very annoying team. If anything deserves a like, I think beating that team specifically should be the one thing that deserves a like. Next game, lead into Dewgong. As I said in the last game, I'm expecting them to shield because this is very similar to the Mantine situation, but I just felt so wrong doing it, because if I grab a shield advantage, that's perfectly fine by me as well, because the 2 in the back are so good up a shield. So we go straight for the Stone Edge, they do shield it, and now bring in my Charizard as a safe swap instead of Zapdos, because Zapdos does very well against Dewgong when there are no shields. But if in the 1-2-0 shield scenario, but if this Dewgong still has 1 shield, it might just be able to farm down the Zapdos as we go for this Blast Burn, whereas Charizard is much better against the Dewgong that still has a shield remaining, because it just doesn't just get farmed down as we go for the Blast Burn to take them out after taking 1 Ice Wind. This Blast Burn is debuffed by the Dewgong. Mandibuzz is very bulky. It still does about half to the Mandibuzz. My opponent loses track of counts, so they let me get to another Blast Burn. Wasn't pretty bad timing, but I just want to get it off. And it takes out the Mandibuzz. They bring in a Drifblim, we bring in Zapdos, and the opponent concedes the match. That was a lot of fun. That was the last battle for today, and overall this team was a lot of fun to use. It was probably more fun than it was for climbing, but I would say that the Mudboy Charizard core is actually a very good core, but maybe Zapdos was a little bit too spicy. It worked alright, but maybe you can use a Cresselia or something like that instead if you want to climb with it. Other than that, fun fact of the day, Quick Attack Digger Speed beats Golbat, Shadow Golbat, and Shadow Alolan Sandslash in every even shield scenario, unless Alolan Sandslash has Powder Snow. then you lose the 2 shields, but you can simul KO in the 2 shields if you have a very good Diggersby. I also want to say a big thank you to our members of the channel, and if you like the video, like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, I hope to see you next time.